James, I'm super excited to talk about this car for a multitude of different reasons. But off the top of my head, one, it's the amount you drive it. Two, it's the amount of modifications. And three, it's the fact that it's dirty, quite simply.
Yeah, the dirtier the better.
Yeah, exactly, as
It
far
means
as I'm concerned.
it's been used and abused.
Yeah, definitely.
And there are a lot of stories with it.
Yeah. So let's go with the basics. 3.8, 991.
Yes.
Gen 1. Yeah.
Okay, so story one, I looked at getting the 0.2.
Yeah.
So the 3.8 or the 4 litre. And I spoke to several people who had driven both, and they said they couldn't really tell the difference apart from on track.
Interesting.
Because it's really some area modifications. And also, if you notice on the 0.2, it's a frown at the front. If you look at the front.
Is it a frown?
Whereas at the 0.1, it's a smile. So on the 0.1, it's like a happy face.
Okay.
Okay, because it goes out like that.
Yeah, yeah, it does look happy, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whereas on the 0.2, it goes in.
Ah, so 0.1s are happy, 0.2s are depressed.
Yeah, so that's the way I see it.
Yeah. So you wanted a happy car.
A happy car, and I thought, okay, there's a huge premium for 0.2s, and don't get me wrong, it's an incredible car, and a lot of people I know with 0.2s, they love it, and it's got a little bit more brake horsepower, better downforce, but I just thought, is the premium worth it? And then the thing with the 3.8, as you probably know, it had the engine failures. And so when I bought this, I bought it from Redline up in Yorkshire.
Okay.
And I bought it sight unseen. And as you can tell, I'm big.
Yeah.
And so I needed comfort seats. I needed front axle lift, carbon ceramics, and I wanted blue.
Yeah.
And I ended up with white because I couldn't find any blue ones around. And I said to them, look, it's got a 3.8, is it the G series? And they said, no, I think it was the E or F series.
Okay.
But it had the 10-year engine warranty because Porsche America, the club over there, managed to get Porsche worldwide to extend it to a 10-year engine warranty.
Really, that's interesting. So it's Porsche Club of America that managed to convince them to do it?
Yeah, it was Porsche Club America that had the firepower to actually get Porsche to offer the 10 years. So I thought, okay.
Fair play. Yeah.
I bought it in beginning of 2019, and it's a 2014 car, and it had 5 owners who'd hardly done any miles on it, and they've done 19,000.
Yeah.
And the first thing, as you probably know, you look at a car, can I improve it? So I spoke to a whole load of people. I said, what's the best modification you can do to a car? And everyone said the same thing. What do you think it was?
Driver training?
Yes.
The mushy bit behind the steering wheel? It's true. It's the two things in my mind is always driver training and losing weight on the car, which affects all the dynamics.
Yeah, well, losing weight and not that fast.
One thing I wanted to ask you before, sorry to interject, is you mentioned earlier that because of your height, you wanted comfort seats. Now, there are going to be other people that might be watching this that are wondering themselves who are a similar height to you, whether they should be going for the buckets or whether they should be going for the comfort. So do you mind telling us how tall you are and how you find the comfort seats in the end?
Yeah, I'm 6'5",
Okay.
196 centimetres.
Yeah.
But the other problem I have is I'm wide.
Right.
So when I try and fit into a bucket, I end up like
With the shoulders in, yeah.
And also I have big feet.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a problem on pedal boxes on the old car. So I can't really fit in the 996 and earlier.
Interesting.
997 I can.
Right.
So my other alternative to buying this would probably be a 997 Turbo S.
Sure.
So also it's a question of how you use it. As you and I are seeing from the same hymn sheet, what are you going to use the car for? If you're going to be a track monster, then bucket seats. I'm not a track monster. I'm probably a monster according to some people, but I actually enjoy touring.
Yeah.
And hence I've put a few miles on this.
Yes.
And comfort seats, heated comfort seats. I turned up to one early morning spirited drive, and they were the latest McLarens and Ferraris, and it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
And I got out, heated seats, nice, warm. Everyone got out of
Luxury.
their bucket seats, like,
Yeah.
you know, what are we doing at 6 o'clock in the morning? And I was thinking, comfort seats are the way forward. And I've done some big trips and some long days in the car, and every time I get out of them, I feel very refreshed.
Sure. And you're happy with the lateral support you get in the
Oh
comfort
yeah,
seats as
because it's 18-way adjustable, so you've got the side bolsters, you've got
you
the
can
lumbar
bring those
support.
in as well?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
So when I'm up in the mountains, I press in the lumbar support, so it hugs you really tightly, and also does the thighs, so it hugs you really tightly on the thighs.
Super.
So yeah, I mean, I can't speak highly enough of the comfort seats. If you're bigger like me, or you're going to actually use the car for touring, and don't forget, a GT3 RS is a track car you can use on a road. A GT3 is a road car you can use on the track.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
And I looked at getting a GT3 RS. I actually like the 991.2, but they all came with roll cage bucket seats, and I thought, what am I going to use it for? And I just want to tour.
And it's probably going to be too stiff as well, really, compared to a GT3.
Yes. So after the driver training, so first modification, driver training. So I had Ivan Thomaset at Total Car Control for 2 days. Day at Millbrook, day on the open roads. You think you know how to drive, suddenly you realise
you don't.
And he's a hard.
So who was that again, and how did you get hold of this person?
He'd been recommended by several people.
Okay.
Ivan at Total Car Control.
Total Car Control, Ivan.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's ex-senior Porsche GB driving instructor. All
Right.
this. But he's a hard taskmaster.
Okay.
And it's probably one of the most intense 2 days I've ever done.
Really?
But then, others in our group have, used Colin Hode, or was it? Yes, it's Hode. And there are several others, Colin Mansell and various other people. So yeah, that was the first thing, driver training, and it's an eye-opener.
Okay.
Because I've come from, my background is actually fast Audis.
Interesting.
So I would say it's all genetics. So my grandfather loved motorbikes, BSA, Nortons. My other grandfather had fast Audis.
Interesting.
My father actually got me driving at 3.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Explain that one.
So I'm a farmer's son.
So at 3.5, you were what? Already 5 foot? Is that what we're saying?
About 5'6".
Is that how you can reach the pedals and steering wheel?
Yeah.
Sorry, it was too easy. I had to crack it.
Yeah, but it was. I was standing up. I was on a pickup in a field. My father was behind.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I just want you to put it into first gear, just touch the accelerator. On the pickup, he was behind, picking up some bales, and I put my foot down because I like speed. And the next thing I knew, I could see him, and I was laughing so much I let my foot off and stalled the car. That's his first mistake. Second mistake was I went home and said I drove the pickup to my mother, and she almost killed him, skinned him alive. So, I like driving. I've always liked driving. So the GT3 was a natural progression.
Okay, cool.
But the thing is that I'd gone from I didn't really come across Porsches until later. The first Porsche experience I had was a friend of mine at school. His father was the head of legal for Formula One, and he used to go from Ferrari to Porsche. And one day, his father said, "Oh, do you want to go out?" And I thought it was the Ferrari, and I was really disappointed. I think it was a 930 Turbo.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like still a cool car, but
yeah.
Red Ferrari or Porsche? Yes.
Well, I'm slightly biased, so I would have been very happy in the 930. But
yeah, I was happy after after we did the speed.
After the experience, right?
But then I just went. The car experience was S2, S4. I had an RS6.
Yeah, great car. So what's that, like a C7?
I had the C5.
C5.
And I had MRC from Banbury tuner.
Yes, just down the road.
Yeah, Miltech exhaust,
Nice.
Bilstein PSS9, Hotchkiss anti-roll bars.
Nice.
But it's an Autobahn Stormer.
Yeah.
Hardly any steering feel.
Well, it's a do everything car, whereas this is a precise tool to do one job, isn't it, really? Put a smile on your face.
Well, yeah. I've had this as a daily driver.
Did you? Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
So back to it, I would actually say, there's lots of stories, but I loved the Audis. And in actual fact, one of my favourite cars was the S2.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal car. But I remember the RS6 was different again. It's much heavier. And I went up Gilston Road in Chelsea. Do you know Gilston? And Rowan Atkinson was on the street. And, you know, I'm a complete petrol head, so I saw him blip the throttle and his head just turned. Do you know, it's just, you know, petrol heads of the world unite. You know, if you hear, you know, that V8 rumble with something, this has got quite a nice, you know, scream, howling.
Let's start going through the modifications if it's okay with you. So let's start with...
First thing off, I should actually say, so driver training. The second thing I did, I asked other people with Porsches and they said, get the DSC suspension module.
Interesting, okay.
So that's available, you can have it put on retrofitted, but I think it's, from the 997 onwards.
So what is that?
It basically is the module that controls the suspension and reacts in about 1/10 of the time that the standard module.
So that's to do with... So is it reactive or is it just a button you press to go into softs?
No, it's reactive.
Okay, right.
So, and it gives you much better compliancy. So I can actually have this in sports suspension all the time, even over the hard roads.
Yeah.
That was a game changer.
Right. And so that uses the original suspension and just with a module you put in.
Which reacts far quicker than the stock.
Interesting.
And I've actually got other friends to put it in their car and they said it's the best upgrade they've ever done on their cars, 997 onwards. Is that
an aftermarket part?
Yeah, it's aftermarket. It's literally plug and play.
And what's the name of the company again, sorry?
DSC.
DSC. So you keep, the coilovers are exactly the same, the springs,
so you just
everything.
literally pull out the old module, slot it in 3 minutes, you put in the new module.
And you can do that yourself.
You can do it yourself. I mean, I had 9 Excellence who've been really good to me. They tuned it, so you can actually alter it. Because it's just algorithms. And they said, what driving are you doing? Are you tracking it or road? And I said, I'm doing road. And so we'll give it more of a road bias. Yeah. So the DSC suspension was the huge game changer.
So what is the difference in feel? How does it change the car?
It's so much more compliant over bumps.
Interesting.
And it also tightens up much better on the corners.
So the dampening is better, and then it's more reactive when it gets to the corners.
So it helps prevent dive and squat.
Right, right.
I'll try a car with and without, and
night and day.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you know Pete from Petroheads.
Nope.
I got sold him a module a friend had, and he said it was the best bang for buck upgrade he's ever done. And he's complete the cars he's had. So that was the first game changer.
Super.
So I wanted something that made it more compliant. First, 2 days of training for myself to actually understand, because I've gone from 4-wheel drive cars now to rear-wheel drive, and teach you how to drive or begin to how to drive. So suspension is good.
Have you done anything to the roll bars?
No roll bars.
Roll bars are exactly the same?
No, there are no...
they're on, what, you're taking the roll bars off the car?
Sorry, I mean, I meant the inside. So there's roll bars, everything's the same.
Okay.
But the next upgrade wasn't an intentional upgrade.
Okay.
So this is the 3.8. I was going for an early morning spirited drive with some friends, and I've been given this route, and the chap said, look, it's a great road, but watch out for this humpback section. And I saw these humpbacks, and I was running point, as you do, or I do. I always invite other people to run point, but they never do. Anyway, I saw these humpbacks in the distance, and just as I was changing up, I didn't realise I was actually on a humpback, and I went airborne.
Right.
Engine over-revved.
Yeah.
Hopefully no one from Porsche is listening to this.
Okay.
Engine over-revved. I carried on, and about a minute later, the engine went into limp mode. Stopped the car, switched everything off, rebooted. It was fine, good to go. And then it kept doing it over a period of several weeks. So I took it to 9 Excellence, and they said, we think it might be, I think it's the camshaft or something's got, the standard problem you get.
Right.
And then I took it to Porsche Guildford, who were fantastic. They investigated it and said, yeah, your engine's gone, you need a new engine.
Gosh, okay, right.
So literally 2 weeks later.
And that's just from an over rev?
It wasn't a no-brainer. It was just
it was natural causes. Yes,
natural causes.
James,
it was
I
a flying
might stop you just one sec. I'm going to just readjust your microphone just in case. I think it's probably fine, but I'd rather play it safe before we get comments saying that it didn't go in. So I think we're good.
Okay, right, thanks.
Yeah.
So Porsche Guildford were fantastic. They said, look, it's a standard problem. We'll give you the G6 engine. Okay. No known problems on it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's a 3.8. And they said, yeah. I said, can I, get a 4-litre
upgrade? Yeah.
And they said, no, because we've got all these 3.8 engines.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. I said, are you sure I can't? I said, no, 3.8. Yeah. But I said, well, what's the difference? And they showed me the videos. And the videos were, it was just a completely different engine. I said, well, there's a really big difference here. And they said it's essentially the RS engine de-stroked from 4 litres to 3.8.
Interesting.
Because Porsche spent so much money developing E, F. They said when they got to G, let's actually have a tried, tested car engine and just de-stroke it to 3.8 or just so that's what it is. So it's a fantastic engine. So I then literally had the G6 engine, and speaking to other experts out there in the market, there's no known issue so far.
Brilliant.
And it's out of the 10-year engine warranty now.
Yeah. So you won't be going over that hump at any pace. No airborne antics anymore.
No more airborne antics. Well, I had a few in my time. So that's that was another modification that happened.
So let's carry on with engines if that's all right.
Yeah.
And the associated hardware around it. Lightweight flywheel, RS clutch.
No, it's because it's
PDK, isn't it? Okay,
PDK.
right, okay.
So the latest modification, because there've been a couple since, is in Litchfield.
Yeah. So what? The exhaust system?
No.
Okay. We'll get to that in a moment then. Yeah.
So now it's out of warranty. So Ian Litchfield and his team are fantastic. And they've got I think it's the Maha dyno.
Okay.
And they've tuned GTRs to God knows what. And they look after Chris Harris's car, and they've fettled that and fettled other. So given I was coming out of warranty, I said, well, what can you potentially do to my car? They said, well, we've done a few, and they're safe. There's some people I wouldn't trust in my car, and they're very good. Very nice team to deal with. And they said, what exhaust have you got on? So that goes to the next modification. So Eddie Brooke, do you know Eddie?
Yes, I've come across Eddie. He hasn't done any work for me, but he's done works for friends. A lot of Inconel exhausts. Does everything from Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches, right?
So this, when I bought it, already had the Brooke race exhaust back box. And I then said to him, I said, well, how much weight saving what's the next stage? He said, well, take off the side boxes. And I said, well, how much weight do you save? And he said,
so that's 2 silencers, 1 silencer per side, is that right? Okay.
And I said, well, how much weight would you save doing that? Because I'm not interested in, it might not sound like it, I'm not interested in the sound, it's actually the weight.
Yeah, sure.
Especially because it's so far at the back. If you take the weight off, it moves the moment of inertia forward.
Sure.
Anyway, he said, well, it's 23 kilos you save.
Yeah, that's good saving.
And
really good.
I said, well, will I feel it? He said, the first roundabout, first corner, you will feel it. I said, no, I'm not that much of a driver. He said, trust me. You will feel it.
Difference.
And lo and behold, he put it on, and first roundabout, it was like, oh my God, you can actually really feel that weight difference.
Interesting.
So that's another modification I did, and then in that.
So that's a straight pipe into the single silencer in the middle, is that right?
It's valve, so it's still got the sports cats.
Okay.
So what actually happened? Earlier this year, I was on a tour of Austria, Slovenia, and Croatia, and on the way back, unfortunately, someone went into the back of the car.
Right.
So we were up on the mountain passes going boom, 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 as you do. And I was running behind the GT4 RS, and he had to come to emergency stop because the tarmac suddenly went into gravel.
Right.
I stopped, and then the guy behind me
didn't.
Option A was a 1,000-foot drop to your left. Option B was into the cliff face and right
Option
off your
C
car.
was kiss your ass.
It's not an ass you want to kiss. So
he lightly...
he went into the back, and luckily, everyone was okay, but he basically bent the exhaust out of place, and the bumper was melted because it was pushed up. So he melted the bumper driving back, and he also managed to dislodge something in the dashboard, so there's now a rattle.
Shit.
Anyway, so his insurers were fantastic, and I said, look, I got a quote. They had a assessor come out. He said, well, Porsche exhaust is X. So I called up Eddie. I said, well, how much for your full in-canal system with sports cats? They're EU compliant. They're 200 cell sports cats. And he said, well, you'll lose another 6-7 kilos, so it'll be a 30. He said, should free up a little bit of brake horsepower, but not much. And it was £5,000 cheaper.
No brainer.
So I said to the insurers, I said, look,
you can do the original,
or I can save you £5,000. What would you
I
like
love
to
the
do?
man map. So we're absolutely sure you didn't step on the brakes deliberately to upgrade your exhaust, right?
yeah, definitely. The aggravation of getting it all sorted.
I'm sure, yeah. With
I mean, the dashboard rattle, I just want to take my shotgun out and shoot the dashboard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because something with the jolt just...
Yeah.
But it's still good to go.
Okay.
So,
but on the positives, we've got a new exhaust system from Litchfield. And I'm guessing they mapped the car as well.
So Eddie Brooke did the exhaust. 9 Excellence fitted it. Litchfield, then I took it back down to Litchfield because they'd already mapped it once to remap it. Okay. So stock, it's running about 467 brake horsepower. Now it's 498.2.
Yeah,
that
Jesus.
point two is so important. But someone said, well, I said I really wanted it at 500, and a friend of mine called Tom, he's got a GT4 RS, he's a Nürburgring man, even bought a flat there. So,
God.
So, and he said, well, yeah, convert it to PS. Yeah. And I said, oh, good idea, it's 505 PS. So I'm over the magic 500.
Okay, cool.
So in terms of modifications, exhaust, and then I've also done the suspension.
Okay, and just quickly, for the exhaust, what kind of decibel, for the people out there that are thinking, I've got one of these cars, this sounds like a great way to produce some more powers, and also to do to lose some weight. The only thing that might hold them back is the decibels, because I have noticed that this car is, how do I put it, frighteningly loud.
Frightening.
And this is coming from someone who's run on straight pipes on older stuff.
So if you're going to take it to a track, you can't...
Unrestricted day.
Yeah, you need an unrestricted day. Because it's probably around 105, 107.
Is that it?
Maybe a little bit more.
I mean, to me, it sounds like a lot more.
It might be a lot more since Ian Litchfield has worked as manager.
Because we've been out together, you in that car, me in this car. This has no silencers except for the turbos. Yeah, that is correct. And this is getting on track at Silverstone. I was doing 105.
Yeah, 105.
On
yeah,
flyby.
It's exponential. So I mean, it's probably around. So I had someone.
And you sounded louder than me, and I'm on 105.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I couldn't hear my car over your car, albeit you were in front, but still.
Yeah, well, that's front, and it's firing backwards. I had a friend stand on the road with a decibel meter, and he did on a flyby. It was 106, 107.
Yeah, and knowing you probably timed it so it was 9,000 RPM right on the microphone.
Oh, this is the great thing about Ian Litchfield.
Okay.
So. And his team there, I mean, I say it's the whole team, so good. They've removed the rev limiter, so hence you can rev it up a little bit, which is nice.
Oh, wow, okay.
They moved it from 9,000 to 9,250, and they said it could go to 9.5, but they want to be safe at 9,250. The engine is built so well, it's that capable. But I actually did it more for the mid-range torque. Yeah. Because I've had M3, M2 comps pull away from me on mid-range. They've just got that mid-range torque. And the thing is just that, as you and I know, if you look at the modern cars, they're so much quicker. On the Tour of Slovenia and Croatia, there was a guy in a GT 992. It's the GTS 4, 4 GTS. And his mid-range torque coming out of the corners and grip, I was just like, I've got a GT3. Why, what the hell's
going on?
What the hell's going? And he's a very capable, Brad's a very capable driver.
Sure.
And you just think, and these cars are just so much quicker. But it's really that mid-range torque. I mean, it does like to drink fuel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially if you're in the rev range. And I was behind a friend, another Tom, with a GT3, and we did, filled up. And he's got the 4-litre 992. And I mean, over a day of mountain passes and some motorway, he had used 50 litres, I used 52. But so...
And anyway, who's counting?
Yeah,
who's counting, right?
I mean, you don't want to
with a car like
do
this, you like going through the OBD, the onboard computer, OBC, whatever it's called. You kind of move away the miles per gallon. That's certainly what I do when I'm in that car.
It's miles per mile.
Yeah, you kind of move. I always go away from that menu because I just don't want to know the MPG.
Oh, this will, on a steady motorway run of 70 miles per hour, I've had it 26 miles per gallon. But the thing is, another friend with a GT4, he's doing 32. And in actual fact, friends of mine with the later GT3s and GT4 RSs, we all say what we'd really like Porsche to do is actually have a long 7th gear. So instead of running, when we're doing the French auto routes at 85 also, rather than being at 3.5 to 4,000 revs, Harry's GT4 was running at 2,200. And if we, it just makes it that much easier, much more economical, and it's just more pleasant.
It's more pleasant.
I mean, the thing is, I've got noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Well, because when we do long tours,
I know.
It's just you put it on, it just quietens it all down. It's great.
It's amazing how good those are.
Yeah.
What systems do you use?
I've got Bowers and Wilkins and some Sony.
Yeah.
So I've got in-ear and then over-the-air. And that's one of the great conversations that I have. All the other GT3, GT4 S's. Which noise cancelling headphones are you using?
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, I remember one year I took that yellow RSR behind us, and that's got at the time it had one seat, and it still has no carpet, and it was on a straight through exhaust. And I mean, that was extreme. But I took with me ear defenders, just simple ones. I took with me some Sony ones, which were noise cancelling, and some Apple AirPods, and I was just switching around trying to figure out which one was the best system. And actually, I found that the Apple AirPods were really good. Yeah. I mean, you didn't even have to have music playing. You could just, cancel the sound out, and that when you could just, it would sound like a Prius. It was great. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, the Bowers and Wilkins are pretty good, and sometimes they just don't have music. But I mean, I've done 10, 12, 14-hour days in the car. And it's fine. And that's another upgrade I did was, I don't know if you know, do you know Sextons in Wandsworth?
Why does that name ring a bell?
They do a lot of in-car entertainment.
No, I'm thinking of Edward Sexton and Taylor. Sorry.
Okay, no, so anyway, they put I think it's the NM module in there.
Okay.
So I've got Apple CarPlay and nice. Android Auto.
Yeah.
And one of the other upgrades they did for me was the reversing camera.
Okay.
So it's like coming in here.
Do you want to show us that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Might as well start talking about the interior then. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing to talk about the interior. It's just...
No, but I mean, like, what's called, is it complete integration into the original system?
Yeah, it is. It's complete integration.
And is there a button you need to press, or how does it work?
Yeah, there's a button there, and it comes on NM.
And do you plug your phone in, or is it done through Bluetooth?
It's Bluetooth, but I actually plug it in anyway to keep the phone charged.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And that's Sexton's in
Wandsworth.
In Wandsworth. Oh yeah, I can see that Apple CarPlay.
And it's brilliant. I mean, it's a game changer. Yeah. Because very often, when we're on our early morning spirited drive, which you've been on one, we will run Waze and Google Maps. Yeah. Yeah. So everyone likes Google Maps. Yeah. But I prefer Waze.
Yeah, same.
Waze is very good for accidents and traffic cameras, etc.
And police and all the rest of it. The only fine thing I find with Waze is that it works really well as a navigation tool from one point A to point B.
Yeah.
But if you're plotting a route on an Alpine tour, a Pyrenees tour, Google Maps is where I'm used to.
Yeah, well, the trouble is so I've just organised a tour of the Pyrenees and Sarah to Australia, Spain and Portugal, 2 weeks. When we're up in the Pyrenees, as happens in the Alps as well, various people lost signal, and then the Google Maps flipped on, and it rerouted.
Okay.
Because it's always trying to work out the best route. So, a couple of days, I gave everyone, actual hard copies and the Google Maps, and I said, this is, the destination. Suddenly you have people going off in different ways.
Yeah. So what we do on our Alpine tours is same thing. We have a, where is it? I've lost it now. It must be upstairs. We have a map of the overall tour, so because it's always nice to have that with you. But here's a trick. There's a module you can buy made by TomTom, and it's basically a satellite receiver, so it doesn't rely on phone signal, and you can Bluetooth it to your phone. So effectively, you constantly got a connection regardless of whether you got reception, and that's worked really well for us. Yeah.
So that's something. I mean, in actual fact, when I've done a number of petrolhead tours, and they're fantastic. If you follow Joe Achilles or Rick the Spud on YouTube. And they'll show you the tours, and they have the sat nav, and you've got a couple of guys running point, and everything's planned meticulously. Can't recommend them highly enough. But yeah, I mean, things when it's just you and a group of friends, you know how long it takes to actually do the route mapping, and then especially if you go up into you were in the Alps when we were in the Pyrenees. Very often you can't actually do the route planning until the actual passes open up.
True.
Because it reroutes you. Anyway, we need to get used to the Pyrenees.
I'd love to. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's carry on with the modifications for the car.
So the other main modification I've done is, my mother hated it, but I love the 917 Golf livery.
Yeah.
So this car was wrapped in blue with orange stripes.
Oh, and was it a weathered?
Yeah, it was the way I drove it. It was very weathered. Okay. So this is in its original white. Yeah. So I did blue and orange. My mother was so embarrassed by it. She actually had a car cover in case anyone came to see her.
That's hilarious.
When I visited.
Yeah.
And then I was on a petrolhead tour of Spain, and this farmer was watching, I think it was AIDS F12, and we parked up, and we were all going into this nice restaurant for lunch, and this farmer was reversing up, but instead of watching my car, which is, I mean, you couldn't miss it, blue and orange, it was looking at the F12, reversed into the rear wheel arch.
What is it with the rear of your car getting knocked?
Yeah, I don't. So he knocked into that, and he admitted liability. Yeah. And the assessor came out and said, look, you're going to have to unwrap the car. I wouldn't recommend wrapping, by the way.
Because it takes some pain with it?
No, it's just the time and trouble. But also, if you're driving a car like we do, things will get through. Because then you really want to PPF it and all the rest of it. And so the assessor said, look, you need to unwrap and then rewrap the entire car. Here's how much. And
the other thing, sorry, to interject, is that I was talking to someone recently that used to work in PPF, and she was saying that that actually PPF protects the car, but like the wraps are too thin and they don't actually protect the car. It's literally just a livery, or it's literally just a change of color. So there isn't much protection to it.
So
would you say that's true as well?
Yeah, that's true. So, their insurer very kindly, after several months, because obviously he's a Spanish farmer in the middle of nowhere, and eventually they said, okay, we need to. And I said to my local garage, I said, can you pull out the ding? And they said, take us 2-3 days just to slowly suction it out, rather than because the assessor said it was a whole new wing and everything else, and then the wrapping was going to take a week or two. And I said, well, they've given me the money. Let's go back to white, keep my mother happy. True. Keeping mothers happy.
Yeah, if mum's happy, then everyone's happy.
And I said, I called up Nine Excellence, and I said, well, what do you recommend on the suspension? And they said, look, why don't you put tractive suspension on?
Right, okay.
So, that was someone else who knocked in my car. So that's another modification. So I've now got tractive suspension.
Okay, so you no longer have the original suspension, it's now tractive.
Okay. The original suspension was with my mother in a box.
Right, okay.
So, so the tractive suspension, you've probably come across.
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so primarily motocross. And in America, I think they banned it from the race series because it's so good. And stock suspension reacts in about 20 milliseconds. This reacts in 6
And with the module that you put into it?
Yeah, so that just gives it greater dynamic range.
Okay, but the reactive tire is still the same?
Yeah, so the reactive, it reacts much quicker.
And you feel it?
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing that I've been quite skeptical of skeptical is probably too strong a word, with some of these adaptive suspensions is there's a lot of emphasis on how quickly the suspension adapts. But then when it comes to the conversation of the quality of the spring rates, the components, and also the quality of the dampening, that kind of gets put to one side.
It's good. The damping on this is...
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried other cars and I mean, I always think if you're a race driver, you're talking about downforce. If you're a road driver, it's a question of quality of suspension.
Yeah.
And I've actually just had the suspension refreshed.
Okay.
Because I've done, since I put it on, 30,000 miles on it.
Okay. How long have you had the car?
5.5. Coming up for 6 years.
How many miles have you put in total?
I've put about 56,000. So it's coming up for 75,000 miles.
Amazing. Okay. Awesome. So that was so that's the current suspension now in the car, is the tractive system.
Tractive suspension.
And what wheels are you running?
Oh, there's another story behind that.
Okay.
So I was on a Petrolhead tour and came around a corner very slowly, and there was just no front end grip, and there was a lane going up. So I thought, okay, always look for an emergency exit. I wasn't going very quickly, and so I went up this lane, but there was a big metal bar sticking out.
Ouch.
And it took a chunk out of my rear alloy.
Yeah.
I mean, the car was good to drive. Yeah. I was lucky. There had been a lightweight 997 in front half an hour before. It actually rolled into a ditch.
Whoa.
Wrote the car off.
Jesus.
And so, I mean, I was perfectly fine. And on the ferry back, I called up Johnny Cocker. Do you know Johnny? JCR?
No, I was thinking of Johnny Cocker. I'm getting this all wrong today. I was thinking of Johnny Cocker, the solicitor who was in the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, right. Okay,
different Johnny Cocker. Yeah. I think that was Johnny Cocker. Anyway,
sorry. So someone said, oh, he's got some BBR forged alloys.
Yeah, definitely different Cocker.
And I mean, he does some great work on exhaust and mods.
Okay, so he's a
another Porsche.
shop?
Yeah, another Porsche.
enthusiast.
Yeah. And so, anyway, literally on the ferry, I said, look, might as well, if I'm going to have to change one, and he did me a good deal. So I said, let's get these on. I said, how much weight saving is it? Yeah. He looked the size of me, and I have a good lunch. And he said, well, it saves 11 kilos. I said, well, that's not very much.
Unsprung weight?
Yeah, he said, unsprung weight. Yeah. And I said, so? He said, well, it's 6 times equivalent to sprung weight. Yeah. What, so that's like 66? He said, yeah, you'll notice the difference. I said, I'm not that much of a drop. He said, James, another one, trust me, you'll immediately fear.
It's rotational mass, slowing down, speeding up, all of it. The way the car handles the bumps.
You'll get it on the corner. And I felt it immediately on the steering and on the corners.
So these are BBSs.
Yeah.
I see that forged wheels, quite scalloped, and you've got speed holes in there as well.
Yeah, so... Awesome. The thing is that as you probably know, the new ST that's come out and the new 992.2 GT3, they've got a similar design wheel.
They do. Yeah.
And that's because they're having to add all these particulate filters now, and their cars are so heavy. I think the ST or the GT3 lightweight is still 1,400, 1,450 kilos. Yeah. They've got to reduce the weight somehow. So I think
So these are aluminium or they're magnesium?
I don't know. And they're not magnesium, forged aluminium, I think.
Aluminium, which is better, especially for a road car.
Yeah.
You know, what's called magnesium can be quite something
Well, as
to
I
look
said,
after.
if you actually look at the scuffs, I mean, I parked this up in Hampstead because I said this is a daily driver. I came back after walking around Hampstead to find someone that had done that. And if I mean, the wheels are curved, they're battered, they're abused.
Yeah. I'm detecting a bit of a theme here, James. It seems to me that every time something breaks through fair usage and good usage, but it's an opportunity to do an upgrade.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the thing is that it's technology moves on, and I mean.
No, of course, but there are a lot of people out there who'd be like, okay, that's broken. I want it fixed to exactly the way that it was. But it looks like actually, through the fair usage that you do, the damage that incurred is an opportunity. You treat it as an opportunity to modify the car to better suit how you are as an individual in terms of the way you use it.
I mean, if it was a garage queen, if it was a collector's piece,
you'd be doing
it would be all original. Yeah. But this is, last year I did 3 tours. This year I've done 2 tours. Yeah. It's a question of actually making the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that's
enjoying it.
Credit to you, what's called, really using the car in the way in which you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, it's got PPF. I mean, that's fact.
So you have PPF'd it. I personally, I like it in white. I think it looks very much like the racing cars were all white. Yeah. And it's very pure and very simple and understated.
But I agree. I mean, I've come to like it. But I mean, in actual fact, the PPF was done. One of the original owners was the managing director of Reap, who are a big PPF, and they actually had put PPF on the windscreen as well.
Interesting. Okay.
And I would say don't do that because it yellows over time. Yeah. And very kindly.
And there's also like an adhesive, so it must look like you're looking through something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's now taken off. So it's PPF on the front. I said it's got that was a chip from a stone going up something called Dusty Mountain, following Pete. So it's used and abused.
So let's start talking about that. How do you use the car? You use the car for road trips, and you're a big touring person, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I've always enjoyed road driving. I'm a member of, as you can see on there, Parsons Green, which is a group of guys. You've been out with us. We go out early morning to avoid traffic.
And you're the organizer of this group, right?
I am the organizer of the group.
So what's our group? How many members have you got in there?
Almost 100.
Yeah, right.
And
it's really
everything.
It's really a driver's group?
Yeah, so we ask everyone to have had driver training to come out, and we have radios, and we drive in a spirited but safe manner. Yeah. And I've got Target Blue Eye just to make sure we're not doing...
What is Target Blue Eye?
It just monitors Tetra signals.
Okay.
Which is good. I mean, I was just pottering along.
And Tetra signals, for those who don't know?
It's essentially for the emergency services. So I was just pottering along. Someone said, I've got, very kindly, Pablo's now doing the 24-hour series with Porsche in Europe. He said, I'm just taking my Target Blue Eye off. Do you want it? I said, well, what is it? What does it do? He said, it's good for emergency service detection. And I put it on, literally, I was pottering along at 60 miles per hour. All the lights came on, beeped at me, and lo and behold, this ambulance rushed past at about 90. It's very good for that sort of thing.
Right, I understand. So you're doing your part as a civilian to make sure you're out of the way of emergency services.
Emergency services.
I totally understand, right.
So, I mean, it's, I've done North Coast 500 a couple of times, I've done Wales a few times. Yeah. The Isle of Man was great. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I see you've got an Isle of Man sticker here on the back.
Yeah. So that was great. I went up with Angus and Chelsea Car Club, and it was one of those things. I was, it's de-restricted, and when we were up there, I decided to do the Slock, which is the southeast corner, which is a lovely hill section. I came up behind a police car. And so I just followed in behind, and literally this car was so beautifully driven. I mean, it was just no touch with the brakes, just kissing every apex. And we just for 10 minutes, just like this, up through, and then we pulled into this junction. I put my window down, and this very large police lady was there. And I said, "That's beautifully driven, thank you. I really enjoyed following you." Mm-hmm. And she turned to me, she said, "That's nothing. You should see me when I'm in my leathers on the motorbike." Yeah. And I was just thinking, we're doing 120, 130, and she regarded that as absolutely nothing. And that's the thing, is just that, when you're out driving, it's, the super bikes are in a different league. Yeah. But also it's, when you go to Europe, I know I like the Alps, I've done the Alps. But I mean, I had a short story. I went to the Alps and did a tour of the Alps with some friends. And I went up to a guy called, who's a watchmaker called Kari Voutilainen, whose atelier is overlooking the Valley of Watchmakers. And because I needed to sort something out, and he's a big petrol head as well as being probably the world's greatest watchmaker. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I went up to this mountaintop. He gave me a guided tour, which was incredible. I mean, I was on the way back to the Eurotunnel. So I went back, my car's not that loud. I went back down the valley, boom, 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 as you do. Guess who was waiting at the bottom of the valley for me? Mm-hmm. The Swiss police. Right. Gosh. So I literally turned left, they followed me, turned right down a side street. Yeah. And I was going into this town because I was on the way back. I needed to get some chocolates for my daughters because I was going back without having bought them the presents. I was dead man walking. Yeah. And Kari Voutilainen said, "Look, there's this wonderful chocolate maker.
Go see him."
Go and see him. So I pulled in because they were obviously following me. Yeah. And they literally come up, you know how they do, with their side arms. Side arms, yeah. And they said, "Papers." So I presented the papers. "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I've just been to see the world's greatest watchmaker." They said, "No, what are you doing in our town?" I said, "Well, I've come to get some chocolates because I need some chocolates for my daughters." "Yes, but why here?" I said, "Well, because I'm on the way back to the Eurotunnel. Check my papers, they're okay. Follow us." So they escorted me to the chocolate shop. And they waited outside. I went in, and after 5 minutes they left, and the chocolates in the Swiss, there were no prices. So I thought, I'd get some for my daughters, I'll get some for my father, get some. Then I came up, credit card, into 3 figures. I was like, holy shit. What? Yes.
3 figures worth of chocolates?
Yes, and there weren't, there was tiny little bags. I was thinking, well, it's cheaper. So anyway, I drove out of the town on the way to the Eurotunnel. Guess who was waiting for me? The Swiss police. No. Stopped me. I was like, I was driving nice, and I'm a very careful, considerate driver. Yeah, I know you are. And I was just like, I haven't done anything. No. So where are the chocolates? So I had to show them the chocolates, and they said, "Right, thank you. The Eurotunnel's that way. Please don't come back." And that's the Swiss police. Whereas I've just done a tour of Spain and Portugal, and I had a member of the Spanish police with a machine gun encouraging me to rev up and go quicker.
But it's, you know what, sometimes it's the luck of the draw, because I spend a lot of time in Switzerland. I've got family and friends over there, and some Swiss police have been very kind from the odd occasion that I've met them in the past. So I think it can be.
I agree. I mean, but the Swiss mentality is, various stories.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing with the Swiss is that there's no motorsport in Switzerland. There's no race tracks. There's no hill climbs. None of it. I think there was like a huge accident that happened in the 1930s, whatever it was, and ever since then, it killed a lot of people, bystanders, and so on. And ever since then, the Swiss took a very hard-nosed attitude.
But
towards...
they do hill climbs.
No, do they do hill climbs in Switzerland?
Yeah, they do hill climbs.
Oh, well, I stand corrected then.
Yeah,
okay.
Because some of the big hill climbs in Switzerland. I mean, I'm a member of the Bugatti Owners Club, which does Prescott Hill. Have you done Prescott Hill? You should definitely do Prescott Hill. Okay. Go up.
No, but they definitely don't have any racetracks, so I assumed correctly that they didn't do any hill climbs. They
don't like motorsport, but they do like hill climbs.
Yeah, because they are very strict on cars. I mean, they're the country that fine you a percentage of your worldwide income if you go over a certain speed.
Well, I wasn't worried about that, but business has been so bad, they would have had to pay me money. So.
Okay, so just touching on what you said earlier, you've driven this car a hell of a lot, and North Coast 500, Wales, the Isle of Man. So in the UK, in this vicinity, what's called, where's your favourite place to drive for those who don't necessarily have the time?
I mean, the thing is that there's some lovely roads. You can do the Wiltshire military roads, and it's well sited, open. which is nice. Just watch out for the tanks.
Yeah.
The roads around Goodwood, the South Harting Hill climb
Yeah.
to Chilgrove, which I think I've taken you on.
Yeah.
Which
That was a great drive. Yeah.
a lovely little
Yeah, that was
drive.
nice. And out of the Isle of Man, the North Coast 500 and Wales?
Well, the thing is that Wales, it's stunning. If you have the weather, I mean, I took a group a couple of years ago, and we had to wait. It was only on the third attempt was the weather good enough to do it, because sometimes it's single track and the road surface is not great. And Scotland is the same thing. I mean, I love Scotland and the North Coast. The scenery is spectacular, but it takes a day to get there. And some of it's single track and some of it's gritty. So if you've got, you know, those people with those low carbon splitters, they're not going to, you know, that's really your more Civic Type R, your Golf GTI, etc. So it's horses for courses. Sure. I mean, but, you know, for just our cars, you know, Europe, I mean, would you rather spend a day going up to Scotland and do the borders and the North Coast 500, or a day going off to the Alps or the Pyrenees?
Oh, the Europe, you know, every day of the week, for sure, 100%. But you know, what's what I know that there's a lot of people who would love to do that, but taking that kind of time away from family, it's
difficult. I mean, that's why Wales is so nice. What we normally do is we go up on a Sunday night, and then you've got Monday, Tuesday driving, drive back on the Tuesday evening, back, because our group is based in London, the South East. And it's 2 days of wonderful driving, and it's not too, you know, Wales is nice, the Black Mountains, Barla, you know, Snowdonia, the Evo Triangle. I mean, the Evo Triangle, they've got average speed cameras now.
Yeah, it's dead now, isn't it?
It's dead, but the thing is, what's nice is you know, it's like those exercises you do when you're doing driver training. It's just, you keep 60, even on the undulations, a steady speed, and it's good training. And that's the way I think of it, is just try and get something out of every drive. Every drive I go on, I think, okay, you know, I'll try and improve my line or my, you know, my lines, or I'll try and improve this side of mine.
And so we'll go back to talking about driving in Europe in a second, but for someone who's got, you know, such a passion for driving, has done a lot of modifications car, is not afraid of driving the car to the moon and back, you know, it surprises me you don't have more of an interest in track driving.
I mean, I've done a rally day and I've done a, you know, wet driving skid pan day, but the actual driving around and round a circuit doesn't really appeal.
Interesting.
I mean, I love going, you know, to places, meeting people, different scenery, different restaurants, different cafes, different group, and you're driving with different people.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I totally agree with you. I've done a fair amount of track driving in my time, you know, and you know, I can look back on some amazing highlights. You know, Donington, the UK, my favorite track. In Europe, Spa, with some amazing experiences. Years ago, 964s were dirt cheap. You know, I picked up my first one for £8,000, I think it was at the time. It was 7 or 8 grand. And, you know, because they were so cheap, you just tracked them and you didn't think about it twice. And I have memories of like 15, 20 of us going down Eau Rouge, you know, like Skittles, coming up over the top. And it was just amazing to see all these colors, which were really unpopular at the time, like Ruby Stone Pink and Mint Green and, you know, Maritime Blue and stuff. So I have really fond memories of that kind of experience. But I've got to say now, more recently, like Alpine tours or driving tours with friends, and exactly for the same reasons, is that the intoxicating mix of like the scenery, the food. It's a very social thing. Whereas I find that track driving can be, you know, helmet on, you know, there's no communications between the driver. You don't really, you know, whereas like when you go off as a group, there's a real bonding that happens.
There's a camaraderie.
That's it, camaraderie. And there is the radio chatter and the eventual banter that invariably happens, especially when you tie a cowbell to the bottom of one of your friend's cars. But the point is like you're preacher converted, because nowadays, you know, I'm taking a lot more interest actually in exploring more. And leading on to what I want to talk about next is I spend a lot of time in the Alps. In fact, I was christened in the Alps, in the mountains. So there's a big affiliation with that place for me. And I've done the German, Italian side, I've done the French side, the Swiss side.
You've done the Italian Dolomites as well.
Yes, but the thing that eludes me that I haven't done yet is the Pyrenees. And since we've known each other, you've always harped on about how the Pyrenees is where I need to go. And what I wonder, the question is having done the Alps, having done the Pyrenees, what are the differences between the two, and where does your heart lie between the two?
Okay, so I mean, we did the Alps, a couple of passes in the Alps this year, but last year I went with a good friend called Connor, who's ex-police driver. Phenomenal. His 991 Turbo S had about 700 brake horsepower plus. It was, and safe. And what's nice is...
Necessary? Because that sounds like a lot of power to me.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm a man, never have too much power.
I mean, yeah.
But he is a phenomenal driver and a phenomenal car. He's now got a tweaked BMW.
Yeah.
And that was phenomenal. But the thing is that there are too many cyclists, too many camper vans. Yeah. We were lucky because there was just the two of us. We could make good progress overtaking and radio, and we were safe. But we weren't doing, we were doing sensible speeds. But I mean, Timmelsock and all the other passes, Fuka, Grimsel, Grace Glockner, phenomenal. The Cantonal, have you done the Cantonal?
No, I don't know that one at all. No.
Henry Catchpole did it. It was great. I mean, I would say the scenery is on a different level in the Alps. Yeah. But the Pyrenees, if you are a driver, is where it's at.
Because
I mean, we go 45 minutes an hour without seeing another car.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because we always go, the time to go, if you're planning a road trip and you're going to go into Europe and do these Alpine passes, is after the summer holidays and before the passes invariably close down because of snow. Yeah. So late August, early September is a good time, but there is still cars on the road at that time. And what I've noticed is that the French-Swiss side is the quality of the roads aren't as good as in terms of their maintenance, and visibility isn't necessarily as good either. Whereas I've been spending a lot more time on the German-Italian side, so Grimsel, all of those passes, and I've noticed that, and Gotthard, etc. And I've noticed that there's a lot more visibility. Yeah. But you've been saying to me that actually the quality of the tarmac and the visibility and the lack of people is better in the Pyrenees.
Yes, and it's not just the Pyrenees. So, I mean, this last tour we've done in Spain and Portugal was a 2-week tour. We also did Serra da Estrella in Portugal. And the roads around Guadalupe, I think they pronounce it, in Spain, are phenomenal. And then we did, if you watched Henry Catchpole, the T50 versus, the Gordon Murray T50 versus the F1.
I'll have to check it out. That's a cool film. Yeah, I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah, that road we did. Okay. And that's the southeast part of Spain. Phenomenal road. Right, so we did what I call three catch poles, because he does find the best roads. So we did 3 catch poles, and it's just the road surface is so good. I mean, earlier this year we did Austria, Slovenia, Croatia. The people were so welcoming, but the road surface was not great and the visibility was not, but there was very little traffic. It's something I would say it's nice to do once, but if you ask me where I prefer driving,
Pyrenees.
Spain and Portugal.
Spain and Portugal.
Okay. It's just, and the food's good, the people are so welcoming. And that's what's so nice is people, they don't see that many sports cars down there. They ask you to rev up and go quicker.
Interesting. No, nice. Well, it's always good to have the locals on side. Yeah. But I think that's, I've been out driving with you, and it's one of those things where there are so many factors that come into play into how one should drive and the etiquette that you should have as a tourist in another person's country.
I agree.
And it's yeah.
I mean, that's, safety is first and foremost. And, towns and villages, you keep it low and quiet. It's much as quiet as can be with this car. And you respect people. And if you look, every time we stop, we always encourage people to jump in the cars, take photographs with the cars. I mean, I just, in Spain, Portugal, Harry and I did the most incredible run we did. I think it's Col de Portier, which is this lovely hairpins, opens up to this valley. And then we did this wonderful motorway run, then a road run, and we found literally a rally course, which we did. And we stopped in the middle of nowhere, and this boy comes up, he sees our cars, and on the back of his phone is a white Porsche, and it was just like this is my dream car.
Yeah.
And he sat in the car, he took photographs with his camera, phone.
Yeah.
So he was so made up, and that's the point. It's actually sharing that enthusiasm and that joy and that love with other people.
Yeah. Well, that's so much of what cars do, isn't it? They, no matter what you're interested in, whether you're a stamp collector or train spotter, or you happen to be into cars like the way we are, through hobbies you can really bond with people and meet some awesome people along the way with your enthusiasms. Yeah.
I mean, that's what's great. I mean, I keep meeting more and more interesting people, and if you look at the tours you do, they tend to be entrepreneurs or people who understand that life is worth living, and yes, risk and return, risk and reward. They enjoy driving their cars in a spirited but safe manner, and I mean, some incredibly interesting people, very nice people, and we've got a love of Porsche, and you never run out of chat.
No, that's for sure. Definitely.
But you're always talking about which is the best car for that tour.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. So I took this tour. I can't remember how many miles did I do. I think it was close to 6,000, I want to say, by the time I'd finished.
Was it 6? So I just
I think it was.
Yeah, the Spain-Portugal was 4,600.
Yeah. So I did a big tour with my usual group of Alpine guys, and then I came back to the UK, did some laundry, repacked the car. We did a quick service on it, and then I headed off for another few thousand miles. And the car was phenomenal. The only thing, so I did the German-Italian side, and then I came back and I did the Swiss-French side. And actually, Tom, check this out. These are all the stickers of all the mountain passes.
Almost as many as mine. Actually, probably more than me, actually.
Yeah.
So I should show you my...
Yeah. Let's have a look at that. But the issue that I had is that I put this car together. I had to change rear tyres in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tyres were shot on the canvas.
Last year I went through 4 sets of rears, 1 set of fronts.
Yeah. So, but the issue that I had with this car is that I built this car, or I put this car together to do track days. That's what it was built for. And as a result, the suspension is very stiff. And on the freer flowing things like the Gotthard and the Furka and stuff, not the Furka, the Gotthard and the Grimsel, I think it is, it was absolutely fantastic, it was brilliant. But the smaller technical stuff, it started to fall apart. One, because it was trying to get the power down, because it is quite a powerful car, but also because it is quite stiff. So it's in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to get at is that something like the Pyrenees, I think, is going to be much better suited to this car,
I mean,
where there's better visibility, it's more freer flowing, less technical.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of technical parts there. Yeah. But I mean, this is made for the Pyrenees.
No, but like, for example, like something like the Stelvio Pass, there's one side of it where it had to be a 3-point turn for me to get around it. And I dread to think and you're really tight up to other cars. You know, and there are other passes like, I can't remember which one it is. There's one of them that's cobblestones all the way up. I think it's the Gotthard on the old side.
Yeah, the Gotthard, the old Gotthard, yeah.
You do that in, like, for example, that Olive ST back there. It's a tiny little nugget. And that thing, you don't even feel the cobblestones.
Well, this is the thing. If you're talking about cars, then you've got to talk about, if I may, size. Yeah. I mean, the 991.2, the 992, I looked at various cars. They're getting too big, too wide, too heavy. And all the emission standards and safety standards and particulate filters and everything, they're bigger and heavier. I think the 993, 996, 964, and the 996, 997. I think 997, the 458 is pretty much perfect size because you can thread them down and they're light enough and you still have the involvement and engagement.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, it's great.
James, it's, what's called, from the moment I met you, your enthusiasm has really been infectious from the modifications you've made. Sorry, it looks like we've had a little bit of a power outage. It'll come back on, but in the meantime, you have to forgive us for the sound. But what I was trying to say is that, from the moment I met you, your enthusiasm for the car and what you've done with the car in terms of driving and the modifications has really been inspiring. So I'm chuffed to have you on and to have a real chat about the car and pick your brains about it. So thank you very much.
No, thanks for the sticker.
No, my absolute pleasure. That's another 100 horsepower. There you go. Power
100 horsepower going up.
So hopefully, what's called hopefully that came across on the video and we weren't too interrupted by the power outage there. But thank you very much for your time.
We'll
hopefully,
have to be driving again together soon.
yes, exactly, and hopefully next year the stars can align, and maybe we can squeeze in a Pyrenees tour together, because it would be an absolute delight to follow you down the road.
I'll send you the routes anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that's kind of
so
it,
then you can do it at your own leisure.
Yeah. No, I think the main thing for us is that my Alpine group, they're all air-cooled, so they're of a certain pace. So like what's it called, is trying to
they're going to be much
them.
quicker than me, I know. I know what it's like.
Yeah, but anyway, either way, we'll work it out, and hopefully that can materialize. But yeah, thank you again for your time. Thanks for coming.
Good to see you.